All right, here we go. Finally. Hi, if you don't know who I am, my name is Kersey. I am a Eustace player. I've been playing this character since Versus. I've been playing him actually ever since he dropped in Versus. I have well over 1,000 hours in this character, and pretty much what I'm trying to do right now is create a beginner to intermediate comprehensive guide for people who want to pick up the character or people who are already in the process of picking up the character and want to get to that intermediate level. And for those of you who are already at the intermediate level, what I want to do is, have this as more of like a reference, right, for things that, things you may not know, things you should probably be implementing to help you take that next step. Eustace is a very interesting character. He does require a little bit more dedication to learn than most of the cast. He is one of the most complex characters, if not the most complex. I don't think he's the most complex, but he is pretty difficult to learn. He is definitely not simple by any means compared to characters like Gran, Jita, Belial, right? Where they're very straightforward with their game plan. Eustace's game plan is very dynamic. So you kind of want to learn how to play every sort of style of the game to truly make use of all of his utility. First thing I want to clarify before we get started, do not let any of these other people who are giving like general like synopsises of these characters online that I've seen, or even like the game itself tell you. Eustace, and I stand by this, I have said this since pretty much I've gotten comfortable with the character, is not a zoner. He is not a zoner. He has zoning techniques. He has all these fireballs, right? He has grenades that he can throw. He has a shot that he can shoot straight. He has shots that should go upwards. That does not make you a zoner, right? His buttons aren't good enough for him to be a zoner. His rush down is actually decent enough. Like he's more of like a mid-range to blender character. He has a very specific style of set play that he likes to play. He likes to be in your face, but also maintain like a safe distance. I always say he just likes to play the mid-range, right? Like if you're in the corner, he likes this distance right here. This is where he wants to be. Characters like Six, and like Vera, and all these other like Rushdown, Grimnir characters, right? They like to be in your face. They like to be like right here, right in this little bubble of yours, right? Eustace is not that, right? Eustace wants to be like here, right? Whereas Fairy wants to be over here, right? And Andre wants to be over here, right? Eustace wants to be like right here. He's like a very middle ground character. So that's a big misunderstanding, big misconception that people have about this character is that he is absolutely not a zoner. Another thing that people were saying when the beta dropped was that the changes that they made in terms of the cooldown system and how the specials work in this game changed how he plays. That he can have a more rushdown style. I heard that a lot when I was playing him, and my response to that was no. His game plan hasn't changed at all, really, in the slightest from Versus to Rising. He is still, a lot of what he wants to do is exactly the same. Just the way the game plays and some of the frame data and whatnot, just slight tweaks that they made to the game, just affects how he gets to where he wants to be. But it's not like this game-changing, style-breaking thing that that he has. He's always played a mid-range to pseudo rush down kind of play style. He wants to lock you down and force you to press and capitalize off your mistakes. That is the style that he generally plays. A lot of Eustace players can lean in that spectrum either way. Some players like myself and others like to lean more towards the aggressive part. You'll see a lot of like enemy players, depending on the matchup, lean more towards like the zoning part. And he it's not bad. He can have his moments where he just wants to space you out, ship you out, make you work your way in. But those are few and far between. Like he really wants to get you in the corner and keep you there. He's like any other mid-range style of character, right? The difference between him and the other ones, though, is that it's how he does it, right? He does it in a very interesting and intricate way that does that does require a little bit more resource management than I would say than a lot of the other casts, right? A lot of the other casts, they have like really good buttons and other things they can do from those buttons that are just generally good. Whereas, even if they're all out of resources, where Eustace, sometimes being out of just one resource can lose him the round, right? So it's about being smart. So if you are interested in learning this character, just keep that in mind, right? If you're looking to find a zoner, if that's like the playstyle that you want to go for, I would not recommend Eustace. You're not going to have a good time with him. You're going to realize that a lot of characters have very easy ways in, that dodging his projectiles is very easy. He doesn't really overwhelm the screen that much. And then if you go up against other zoners, like Fairy, for example, Fairy kind of shuts him down pretty easily. Now, granted, a lot of Eustace's tools are very anti-zoning, and I'm going to get into that, later on. And he's very good anti-zoner, so when people see that kind of a matchup, they probably think, oh, he's a zoner. I cannot stress enough, if you are a zoner player, if that's who you want to play, is that how you want to play him, I promise you're not going to have that good of a time with Eustace. You probably can make it work in certain ways, but it's just not his. It's not his play style. So pretty much what I'm going to go over today is his buttons, his specials, certain quirks about the character in terms of like combo routing. I'm not going to go too deep into his whole combo repertoire, just because he's such a unique character in that like almost anything can be a starter with him if it's in a right situation. He's not like a character like Jita, for example, where any button is a starter and she gets like button into Rekka, into Fireball, into DP, or whatever the case may be. He's very like, he has a route for almost any situation, but it's about recognizing those situations and actually putting yourself in those positions, right? So it's very hard in that aspect, but it's very rewarding when you get used to it, right? So I'm going to go into some little like nuances about that. Again, I'm not going to go over all of his combos just because of that reason, because there's so many ways to go about his combo theory. But I will go over some examples, some things that you generally want to do, some things you generally want to stay away from, things like that. So yeah, let's get started. First thing I want to start off is his buttons. Generally pretty good. Slight nerf for the character overall that he had in this game. In Versus, he was able to connect 3 2Ls in a row. He cannot do that anymore, no matter what, right? In Versus, he was one of the only characters that can do that. Like Percival can do it, and like Zeta. There's very few characters who could have done that in Versus. Off the top of my head, I can't really remember. But Eustace was one of them. And, it was a really good thing because he could do 2L, 2L, 2L shots and do all that, right? He has to be a little bit more creative this game, right? So 2L is still not that bad of a move. Fast startup, 6 frames. It's not a bad thing to press. You can get like 2L, off of like counter hit. You can get like, we'll do like a after initial hit, like off counter hit, or I am so stupid. Oh, I guess I can't get any more. I'm stupid. Yeah, counter hit is +4, but you can do that into that. Pretty much universally, the button that you really want to be getting used to, and this just goes for the whole cast, right? Is 5L. 5L is really good. It's fast. 5 frame startup, or 4 frame startup really. +4 on block. Really good. I mean, you can stagger it really well. Right. Do one of those. Do one of those. Right. It's really, 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 really good. In particular, because this game you can do 5L, 5L, 4L. Which 4L in this game is +1, and that's pretty much +1 across the board. It was not that case in Versus. So a little kind of like universal game plan change for everybody, but for Eustace in particular, in Versus, 4L was minus, right? But now, right, he's plus in this situation, right? And this situation, a lot of characters, aren't really like, they're not going to continue the pressure, but he can, right? Because he has a button that if you press, he's going to whiff punish you. He can throw out, heavy or double tap heavy, right? Which we'll get into that in just a second. But yeah, overall, pretty good. Pretty good buttons. Or his light buttons are really good. That's just universal across the board. 5M, standard, and 5H, pretty standard. Just like with everybody else's, longer startup, more combo opportunity, less scaling, things of that nature. The big thing you want to look at are his 2M and his far M. Far M is technically, it does start up 1 frame slower, and it has a little bit more recovery. See, it's 28 frames total active frames versus 2M's 24, so a little bit faster, right? Off of a whiff punish, it's not going to be like that much harder, or it's not going to be that much easier to whiff punish this button. It is a little bit more far-reaching, so just keep that in mind. That is something that you kind of like. This is kind of like your general poking button, right? So like get used to that range right there, right? Knowing this kind of range is really good because this gets you that, right? Right. This is kind of what you want to be doing. 2M, same deal, right? If you're a little bit closer, this is the button you want to throw out since it is a frame faster. It does get you a little bit more in certain situations. I like this button a lot. 2M's always been pretty good. You can go into 2M in particular, and you can actually go into far M as well, right? From 5L. That's a pretty universal thing across the board. There's like certain scenarios where that's not the case. For the most part, you can go into either of these. Pretty good strings as a whole, even on on block, right? It's kind of what you want to do. So you can do like throw out a gunshot. Pretty good. Kind of leaves you in a pretty good state. And remember, this is the exact spacing that I said in the beginning of the video that you wanted to be, right? He wants to be in this mid range, right? So if you're in the corner, doing that string alone, even on block, gets you to the position where you want to be, right? So, pretty nice strings all around. Far H, very interesting button. Decently long range, right? The big thing is that for his Far H and his 2H in particular, they have a second hit, right? This hit is a little disjointed. It's not too crazy. You can't special cancel it. I'm a little too close. Right, you can't special cancel it. You can only special cancel the first hit, and that holds the same with 2H, which we'll get into. The big thing with this button is because you want to throw it out. I mean, it's a decent like poking tool, right? No one's gonna punish you. Yeah, you're -9 in this situation, but no one's gonna really punish you from this kind of range. So kind of like keeping in that. You can still do it like on block, right, to get you a little bit further away if that's what you want to try to do. If you're trying to get like a specific spacing, catch them like pressing buttons between it, because you can delay it a little bit. You can do like 1-2, or you do 1-2, right? So kind of like mess with your opponents. You can kind of do one of those things, and that's like the big thing part of use of game plan, which we'll also get into, is learning how to space things and how to charge things and whatnot. That is a huge part of his game plan. That's what makes him really good and really scary. 2H. This button is deceivingly big. And when I say deceivingly big, I mean absolutely deceivingly big. I mean, I cannot stress enough how good this button is. Like, it catches you really high. Let's see if I can get this. I wish I can schedule. This catches you really high. I'm honestly like, you feel like you can honestly do like a quick run under, and it'll hit behind his head. The big thing is that it also has a follow-up, the way Far Reach does, if you do a double tap. Now, you can't get a follow-up after it in most situations, right? If I do it, I can't special cancel it, right? Right, I'm not going to really get much off of it, right? Right? Even on counter hit, right? Even on counter hit, I'm not going to get anything. No matter how low I hit it, I'm not going to get anything. However, the big niche thing about this, right, is that you can actually get something off of it if you only hit the second part of it. On counter hit, if you only hit the second part, so a quick, like if you catch them jumping and you want to like, and you're just tapping 2H, and the second hit actually catches them, you can actually get a follow up off of it. It's actually see? So a little nuance like that. It's a little hard to recognize. You'll learn to notice when it happens. Because sometimes, I mean, including for myself, it happens by mistake. But it is actually something very useful to know because it might just win you a game, right? Knowing that, you know, you can do this, right? I mean, especially in the corner, right? You know, because you can get it anywhere on screen. Right, so you can, you know, do your whole thing, right? So, not that bad. Obviously, I don't recommend ever like actually try falling through it. Don't be mashing your 2Ms because you're never gonna. In most situations, you're just not gonna get anything, right? So, this is kind of like a very situational thing, right? That you want to do, but it's there for you to do, or it's there as an option for you. Again, it's one of those little nuances that Eustace has, where I said he has all these weird combo starters, but you have to know the situation, and you have to be ready for them and prepared for them, and things like that. That's one of them, right? This 2H, having that second hit is actually pretty nice. One thing you should know, though, that if it is blocked, you are... If it is blocked, you are plus when they land. So they can't be like pressing or doing anything too crazy like that, right? So something that you should probably know. And then you have 2U sweep, right? Pretty good. It's actually an underrated combo starter because it pops characters up just slightly, which we'll get into when we go into specials, is a huge part of Eustace's game plan. He likes people popped up, even in the slightest bit, because that's how he gets his damage, right? He struggles getting damage against his grounded opponents in most scenarios, but if his opponents are, you know, if he's juggling them, he's going to get a lot of big damage, right? And, you know, popping them up just that little bit is enough for him to kind of like get his stuff, you know, going, right? Because, you know, you can kind of just do things like this. Right? You know, he's got, you know, 30, 25-ish% from sweep when he normally wouldn't be able to do that. You know, do things like, right, things like that, right? You know, really good. Decently far-reaching. It's about the same length as 2M, right, in that situation, right? Maybe it's more like 5M, yeah. Yeah. So, kind of keep that in mind. Not that bad startup. Obviously, it's 10 frames. It's going to punish most sweeps. So, if you have somebody like, I know, like Vera players and whatnot, like a lot of characters, they like to like press sweep a lot just because they get stuff off of it the way Eustace does. If they don't cancel their sweep, you know, feel free to use this, right? Feel free to use this all you want, right? This is kind of like your go-to. It's pretty good. And then the last thing we want to talk about is 5U. He kind of like moves himself forward and shoots his gun. There's two sides of it. You can kind of just press it once and it just says the first hit, or you can kind of press it and hold the second hit. You can also hold the button for the second hit, and it delays it like that. It's pretty good. It's part of his more like his mix-up tools, just because it catches buttons occasionally. If they're pressing, they can kind of, if they're pressing, like, even if they press light, sometimes you can get a counter hit starter off of it, and yeah, we'll do like after initially, like if they press between it. Hold on. Right, counter hit actually gets them popped up, which is really good in this scenario. Right, because he gets like his stuff off of it. So it's really good. The big thing is that it's not a true block string, right? As you see, once you blocked right there, it can be DP'd on, what am I doing here? On block. However, we'll do Sandel. She cannot mash out of it. However, she can't mash a button out of it, but she can do like DP. So just be careful with that. With people who like to DP, they can just mash DP out of it. So kind of like bait it, especially if you hold it. Right, you really want to be careful, right? Because you can kind of like space it like that. Because the first hit and the second hit are true, and you can actually space the second hit, where if you charge it a little bit, it's still true, right? And then you get your punish, right? But so kind of like playing around that, it's not that bad. Just especially if it beats, if you're catching your opponent like mashing 5L, 2L a lot, right? It's gonna beat them pretty much every time. If they're not respecting you, unless obviously they DP, right? So very, very, very good. And that's pretty much it for his buttons. Again, you want to learn what his links are. Sometimes, like say you want to do, generally like this is like one of his better links. 2L, 5L, 2M. That's one thing you want to get used to. You can do 2L, 5L, 2L if it's a little bit easier for you. You're obviously just not going to get as much damage. Obviously, 1280 versus 1630. You're pretty noticeable amount of damage. But you do get like generally the same stuff. Right? 2830 for that one. But if you do the 2M, right? You're just getting more damage, right? So kind of just optimizing your what's it called? Your strings. I wonder if you can. I actually haven't tested it out. Can you do jump? Yeah. Right. So you do. Yeah. We'll do off crouch. Right. Right. So it catches like people who try to jump. Right, so if you're trying to jump, you get your stuff. Right, even if you delay it a little bit too much, you're gonna get your stuff. So that's part of like what he wants to do. Play with his little pokes. He's just like the rest of the cast in that scenario, right? Where he, get in your face, frame trap you. Get his stuff off. That's generally what he wants to do. A big thing is knowing on crouch, right? And some of his crouching links are actually really good. Oops. We'll even turn counter hit off, right? He's +9. You know what has a 9 frame startup? 5H, right? Right. That is a link that even I'm like obviously trying to get used to. But it is super important, right? because it helps with his scaling, right? You want to get your heavy buttons out there, right? So instead of like doing like this, like what most people will do, 2L, 2L, 4L, right? Which is like the standard coming from Versus, right? 2140 damage off of that. 3520, and look, I'm still +8. I can keep the ball rolling, right? So I mean, I'm not trying to show off too many combos, but like, right? Huge. Now, obviously, he can get that same, like, that's 5770. He can get the same combo off just auto combo, right? But I just lost 650 damage from not knowing this link, right? Right. It's such a good link. Anyway, it's better than this because like you get Pharrell, right? Which again, you can get stuff with Pharrell, right? But then you looked at this distance, whereas you look at this distance. Like, see, like that's like the difference you want to make. These are the nuances that you want to get used to, right? Get used to like, these links. That's not a bad link right there. Things like I'll look into that in just a second, but like he's +2 here, right? And he's +4 here, right? So if you're like in counter hit on this one, you can actually hit confirm this. So if I want to do right. So something to actually think about, or something to actually practice, right? Right, you get your stuff. So just understanding his links, play around with frame data. Frame data is actually pretty universal in this game, right? So I mean, you're universally going to be pretty plus off of, Pharrell or 5L. You'll see a lot of characters do the same thing. Do like 5L, 5H, 5L, 4M, things like that. So get used to it. Eustace, doesn't always, he didn't always have these universal things that he can take advantage of. Just take advantage of them now, right? Be grateful that Arxis actually made something good, right? Next thing in terms of universal is the his dash attacks, right? Everyone knows about 6XL. It's universal across the board. It's broken. It's funny. It's painful to watch. It's painful to play against. Do what you want with it. You're gonna get your stuff, right? Counter hit. Even without counter hit, it's like really nasty, right? Because you see your +8. Right. So you get your thingamajigs, if you really want to. Right. Right. Get your whatever thingamajigs you want. Mess around with what feels comfortable to you. And that's one thing that I will always preach. Do what is most comfortable for you first, and practice your fundamentals, especially regarding with Eustace, right? Take everything that I'm saying, with a grain of salt, right? Because if you're not comfortable doing a link like that in the middle of a game, especially if it's online and ranked and you're playing in 100 MS, against little Timmy online, right? You don't want to, mess up your combo or potentially, pressure or, what could have been a kill and then lose the game. Because I'm telling you to do something that's optimal. Like, yes, I want to show you what your best option is in that scenario, right? But that doesn't mean go out of your way and out of your comfort zone to learn it immediately. All of these things can be done incrementally. All right, so we have the sad replacement to Universal Overhead from Versus, right? Is his 66M. 66M It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. I kind of messed around with it. It has its pretty solid uses, with in conjunction with other things, which we'll get into later. But this is I guess Cygan's answer to get rid of universal overhead from Versus, right? Universal overhead was probably affected Eustace's gameplay the most because he likes his opponents to get hit crouching, right? And counter hit universal overhead and Versus forced crouching. Since there is no more universal overhead in this game, this is kind of the solution, right? Counter hit. Oh. Even on standing, leaves you +5, right? Right, so he gets what he wants after. Right, it's a lot harder to get, especially since it's only +1 if it's not counter hit. Now, granted, so was universal overhead in the old game, so it's not that bad. The problem with this, is that you have to commit to running forward, and it's easier to react to versus universal overhead. Kind of like, you kind of shimmy and then just press a button and it just does the overhead. Whereas this one, you kind of have to do the whole thing. Obviously you can do a dash macro, which I have set to this button, and you guys can do a dash macro and then just like plink it almost. Because if you press it at the same time, it usually won't come out. But if you plink it. Right. It's not that bad. Like I said, so if you catch opponent, if you want to really run at your opponent, bait a throw, and then counter hit, overhead them, you can. Not the best option, but it's there. It's part of his utility, and he actually has some use for it, which some more that I'll get into later. And then you have running H. This thing's pretty sad. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. It's not nearly as good as some of the really good running H's in the game. Obviously, ones that come to mind like Zoe. Zoe's run H is ridiculous. Even ones like Catalina's pretty solid. Catalina's and like Jita's and Grams, they're all really good. Eustace doesn't quite have that. His isn't as good. It's a mid. So, it's not really going to catch anybody, with high lows. There are, some uses for it. It is a gunshot, which we'll get into later when it comes to his specials. It's just not that great. I find myself doing this on accident sometimes, just because of the way I play the game. He does a lot of dash-up stuff, and so sometimes you'll see me do this, and I'm like, fuck, well, I guess the game's over because I accidentally hit dash attack. So I don't encourage it. It does have its uses. I do use it in certain scenarios to get certain pop-ups that I like and whatnot. Because it does obviously just like every other one. Right, it does pop up. So even I believe without counter, you can still get something off of it. Yeah, so you can still get something off of it even without it being counter hit, right? So not that bad, but this is something that you really want to use sparingly. You don't want to just throw this out there like Zoe's kind of for example, she throws hers out there just because it's really fucking good and it baits and it eats up projectiles and it does all this fancy stuff. Eustace doesn't do really anything fancy. Doesn't really add to his game plan. I hope, however they decide to patch this game, they fix it to where it's it has some other. I don't even need it to be something prominent. Give it some more niche uses, and then I'll probably be happy with it. But for now, it doesn't do a lot of stuff outside of some niche flashy combo stuff. Which again isn't that terrible. As I said, if you're used to doing certain combos, doing certain routes. And this helps you with that, or this is you're more comfortable doing something like this, then yeah, go for it, right? Do what you're comfortable with, and before you trying to be optimal or anything like that, right? So it's kind of my 2 cents on that, but it's just not that good. It doesn't have enough uses for me to justify, spending a lot more time talking about it. All right. The next thing that we're going to get into are his special moves, right? His special moves are, like any other fighting game character, the absolute core of his gameplay. And I say that, not trying to be like, obvious. Like, yeah, of course, the core of his gameplay are his special moves. I mean so in a resource management kind of way. Like I said before, if he doesn't have one of his special moves in any given scenario, it could mean death for him. It could mean the loss of an entire round for him, just because of lack of proper resource management. That is one thing that I feel Eustace players, when you're a beginner, and even at an intermediate level, you have to learn how to properly manage your special moves. In particular, not even in particular, all of them, right? Dash is really good. Grenade, which we'll get into, they're all so important that if he doesn't have one, like I said, like those niche combo situations, those niche punish situations that can pop up, and you typically will pop up if you're on cooldowns. You're not gonna get anything off of it, and it's gonna be harder, and you might have to spend resources to get 80%, 60% of the damage that you would have gotten if you actually had your stuff actually locked in, right? So it's a very he's a very high risk, high reward when it comes to that, because if he does have all of his resources, he can just do whatever the hell he wants. But if he's missing even one, it becomes a little bit harder, and he has to start burning stuff, right? So it's just one thing you want to look out for. The first one that I want to look at is Flameck Thunder, or I just say shot, gunshot. This is pretty much the core of his gameplay. One that goes a little bit slow, one that goes a little bit faster, and then EX, standard multi-hit. Again, pretty universal across the board with the rest of the cast. The big thing that sets him apart is that he can charge his special moves. He's a charged character, but if he holds the button, you get a projectile that pierces, right? So the big thing here, what we want to do, on block, we'll do EX Fireball, right? Right? It just straight up pierces. This is the light version, by the way. I'm not doing anything fancy. Right? Obviously, the heavy versions will cancel each other out. Right? But that's one thing that we kind of want to demonstrate. This should only be used at a really good distance, right? When you're really trying to like out projectile somebody. Just because even if you're like right here, it's not safe, right? The big thing, he is super minus on it, on block, right? So you don't want to just be throwing that out there. Obviously, if he does EX, he's a little bit better situation. But if he charges it, he's a little bit less on, that's the medium version, right? Right? He can become super plus. So if you have your opponent scared, throw it out there, because if they see you charging it, they're gonna be like scared to press, but then they end up pressing, and then you can kind of just get a if they press. You can actually get a combo hit, a combo starter off like just a medium one. Light one doesn't start, heavy one starts, and the medium one starts. Alright, so kind of get used to that. So it's pretty good. Again, this is like one of his things where I said they were like anti-zoning, where if you have like a character like Matera, or even like other Fireball characters like Onrey, or not Onrey, but like Jita and Gran. The big thing is like Siegfried, his medium Fireball, or his heavy one, the big one. you know, discharge this, boom, it pierces right through it, and it stops it in its tracks usually, and you kind of just get some free damage. This is something that is a really good part of this kit, because people will start to like spot dodge it, and they'll start spot dodging early because of how much faster it travels, and then you just throw a slower one and punish their spot dodge. You can do like, you can time it with like grenade, right, so that it hits with grenade, right, so you get a little bit of chip damage, things like that. Alright, so next thing we want to talk about is slow kill, or his upshot. In my opinion, I mean, they're all really important, but like, if you want to talk about situationally important, this is probably the most important special in his kit, for situational advantage, right? Technically, it's his grenade, which we'll get into, but if you want to talk about actual situational importance, it's slow kill. So he can do it in two different directions. The light version kind of goes like this general like V shape across the screen. It's like a deeper V, whereas the medium version is a more narrow V, right? If you are a beginner picking up this character, if you're an intermediate level doing this with this character, stop! Don't do this. What I see a lot of people do is they try to use even EX, which shoots him in both directions. They try to use it on reaction as an anti-air. Do not do this. It is too slow to be a true anti-air. You can do it in like certain scenarios, like if you see Belial, Avatar Belial in particular, like, you know, fly up. You can use it, and it kind of hits him out of that. If you see Beelzebub charge like his dive, you can do one of those things. It's not terrible in those situations, but if Jita in this situation right here were to jump at me, which if you see a jump arc is perfect, right? If Jita were to jump at me right now, and on reaction I did this, 9 times out of 10 it won't hit her. Jumps are too fast in this game, and they were in versus as well, for you to be able to catch them with this. And I mean, it doesn't even matter if they did, just because I mean they're air blockable. They're air blockable anyways, right? So, you know, why would you even do that, right? So, don't try to anti-air with them alone. Get used to your 2H. Again, it is one of the better 2Hs in the game, in my opinion. There are some ridiculous ones they added. Anula's is disgusting. But coming from versus, his is still really good, even though they nerfed the hitbox just a little bit. But yeah, so you want to get used to like kind of using this in tandem with your 2H, right? Because that's how you get combos. Even without counter hit, you get combos, right? So, right in the corner, not really, but that's why in the corner you want to be like in this situation right here, so you can run up. This is why having this kind of spacing is really good, right? Because if she jumped out at me, I would be right under her jump arc, and I would get the full combo. The big thing about its utility is when you get into the corner, slow kill is your best friend. Remember how I said you want to be right here? You want to be about 1 backdash away, maybe a little bit more. You want to be like 1 micro walk and a backdash away from your opponent. Reason being, first of all, right. See how you're barely on the tip of her to him, or far him. You kind of want to be like just outside that scenario. Like I'm kind of like spacing it wrong, but see, I'm just barely in. I don't know why I'm ass right now. Right, this is where you want to be. This is so big, right? Learn even your visual cues, right? Learn your visual cues on the map. Like look at where I have Eustace's like foot in the situation, right? See, if you look at like Eustace's or his left foot, but the right foot on our side of the screen, look where it is in relation to the grass. It's kind of what I do sometimes. Like learn where I am on the grass. Boom, right? There is general setups you can do. You can do, right? Setups like this is really good. It'll catch like, you know, L's, right? Right, you know, these are kind of where you want to be, right? So this is why it's so big. But when you get into the scenario, I want to, we'll do one of these really quick. Light version is -7 on block. Medium version is -7 on block. EX is -2 block. This is super important. This is actually a knowledge check. Oops, I actually moved this on accident. Hold on. This is actually a knowledge check. When most people see EXs, in most of the scenarios, especially if it's a projectile, they'll think, oh, you know, if it's EX, you're probably plus, I'm going to keep blocking. This is a knowledge check, right? If you have somebody who's catching, like, you know, if they're like to block a lot, you know, do that to them, right? Don't be afraid to like use -1, -2 scenarios as a knowledge check to keep your turn and, you know, punish your opponent for not knowing. But the big thing is, right? Even if I were to go, remember that was a string 5FL FRL. Look where it leaves even an uncharged slow kill. It leaves me even, right? When I was -7 in this scenario, right? This is why I cannot stress enough how important playing at this range is for Eustace. It's specifically for slow kill, right? Look at that. I use the other string that I taught you guys, right? 5L, 5L, far M. Now I'm +1 in this scenario. This is big, right? Because, you know, if your opponent is just blocking in this scenario, like, what are they going to do? Like, you could keep your turn back. You know why? Look how close you are, right? If they try to 5L mash, you're going to catch them, right? You're in this, like, perfect sweet spot, right? Right, you're in your, you know, your 5H range, right? Or far H. It's such a big thing being in that range, just because even uncharged, it allows you to allows this one simple projectile to be plus, right? It's a huge part of his pressure, right? So do that, but you can charge it, right? You know, you can be up to +9, right? +9 is nice because you get guaranteed, you know, pressure after. Right? But if you were to combine those two aspects, right? Now look at me, I'm +17. I went from being -7 from just doing auto combo, right? To, you know, +1. To +17. This is where his pressure comes into play. They can't do a damn thing about this. They can DP, and that's about it, right? Right, and you can just keep it going. Slow kill is the one button, or the one special move in the game where I would say, just use a simple input. There's almost no scenario where you want to use the technical input, including in versus, right? This is, I mean, it does a lot of chip damage, right? And they get nervous, right? You know, they're eventually gonna press, and when they press, I'm +22 now, right? Right, I get actual routes after that. It's such a big thing for him, right? And in the scenario, if they want to jump out, right, you can still like try to catch like a neutral, even like a neutral jump, right? In this scenario, that's really good. Another thing about the spacing, right? EX, right? Right, you know, it's very hard, right? You know, you're very up close and personal with them. But if you know, if sweep whiffs, or if it if they block sweep, you know, this is not a scenario you want to be in, right? Because you're still -2, right? So if you're spacing, it's not even a real block string, right? And if they just happen to block it, right, you're still +7 and you keep your turn, right? If they weren't blocking, right, they're gonna get hit by it, right? So understand this spacing. This is very key. Obviously, it's going to be different for a lot of the cast, right? If you're playing against a Lancelot, you're going to be playing like right here. If you're playing against a Percival, goodbye. You know, better luck next time, right? But understanding the spacing is key. It is key to his game plan. It's key to his pressure, right? This is where he gets it all, right? This is where he wants it, right? It's so pivotal for him. This is why slow kill is really good, right? Because he's got infinite pressure. Right, so understand that spacing. The other thing you want to learn about it is that, hold on, it can go off screen. So if you're like, you don't have it back in time, right? It's the reason why you when it goes off screen like that, it's something that most people don't know. It takes longer because it technically hasn't, like, I guess, exploded or finished, you know, being consumed yet, I think. And so that's why it doesn't come back as fast. Versus right here, boom, it's already used up and it's back, right? And if you guys don't believe me, right, I'm going to be going to player 1 settings, skill cooldown. This is on default, right? This is on the default settings. Boom, right? Like, so just kind of keep note of that. Like, if you end up doing something like this, just know, like, don't try wasting your time, like, trying to buffer it. It just will never come out. So just, you're gonna have to go in, right, in that scenario. So try not to whiff it. If you're gonna whiff it, just make sure it's the light or the medium version. Don't just spend EX randomly, because if I spend EX randomly, right, now I'm in a scenario, I'm in this, you know, I can kind of, like, you know, maybe throw a grenade, right, you know, kind of do, like, some of these things, but they're not really that good, right? It's because I don't have a way to, like, truly get big plus frames and lock my opponent down. All right, on to the next one. We're talking about close combat. Huge part of his kit, right? Light version is just a dash that you can cancel with the block button. The big thing is that the fastest you can cancel the dash is 26 frames. Obviously, you know, you're -26, right? So just kind of keep note of that, right? If you do one of these, right, obviously I'm +43, so I can also do another one. I'm still +17, right? Right? And just by doing that, if you saw, like, I hit my my run M meaty, so I'm only -1 versus being -4, right? It's something that you have to, like, practice, right? I'm not even, like, the best at it. There you go, see? I hit it perfectly meaty right there, and I'm -1, right? You're still minus, but sometimes people will be like, oh my god, he hit that meaty, I'm not going to press, and you can keep your turn back and things like that. So, well, again, a little nuance, nothing too crazy, but not that bad to know. But the big thing with slow kill, yeah. So or no, really close combat. Understand that you are, the fastest you can do it. If you just is 26 frames, it's the fastest you can cancel it, right? Now, if you spend EX, you can cancel it in 22 frames. Is being 4 frames faster worth it just to guard? Again, this is a very nuanced thing. If you find a scenario where you're like, hey, like I want to scare the shit out of my opponent, but I don't want to be, but they might be mashing in some, scenario on wake up, then, and you could justify those 4 frames, then sure, discover what you can with this character, right? So if I do like, right, I'm, plus 17, minus 9, right? There we go. Right now I'm only minus 7. Like, again, if I perfect it, I could probably find some use for it, but it's there for you to discover, right? Feel free to mess around with this character. Let me know what you find. That's a light version. There are a couple of follow-ups outside of obviously canceling the dash, right? The light version, right, is like a little like punch, almost like a Buster Wolf looking thing, right? But it's like a little explosion almost. This is very, very nice, right? You're not going to really get much off of it, even on hit. Right, you're only plus 1, so I mean, you could probably do like, one of these. You get your pressure. Right. Again, not that great. It's more utility, right? It's more utility, which we'll get into. The medium is a sweet. The medium follow-up is a sweet. Really, really, really good. Obviously, don't be spamming it. I like to spam it a lot. I need to get better at not doing that. But if you... Your super minus, right? You're going to get destroyed if you do that. Now, you can space it to where it hits meaty. Right, I'm minus 7 in that scenario. There's ways to actually get it better. Right? Like I'm minus 2. This is actually pretty big, right? If your opponent's likes to, walk back a lot, if they're trying to charge up something, if they're not really expecting it, boom, right? This is like a really good thing to throw out there because it sweeps, right? And you're right there in their face again, right? So it's not that bad. Don't overuse it, like I said, because people will become more noticeable about it. But kind of like mix it in, right? Throw out some of your projectiles. Do one of those things. Like if you catch from this distance, it's a lot harder to kind of walk in, but you can kind of just do that. The heavy is an uppercut. It is invincible only on the setup of the uppercut, right? So 7 frames into it, so it's not gonna be right anything too crazy. It's mostly an ender. You don't even really want to do it mid-screen, just because, see how, it does 2600, right? Right, versus 2480, right? So you're getting like 120 less damage from doing medium. But look at how far they are at the run versus me being already there. Right, so I say when you're mid-screen, when you're anywhere on the screen that isn't the corner of end the base of screen with the sweep, so you can get continued pressure afterwards. But then you want to continue on and using H if you want to have an ender in the corner. It's not that bad in that situation. You also can use the uppercut on reaction to Belial's Avatar Belial's fly. If he flies, you can kind of just throw this out there. It is air blockable, but when he's air flying, he can't block. So again, it's not that terrible of a choice to kind of just do it. I mean, if you think your opponent is doing something like crazy and you think you can justify like risking that 7-frame startup, you know, for a DP, sure. I've done it plenty of times. You know, I've done like a little bit of that, so you know, go for it if you feel like it. The medium version of close combat, he does a little knife swipe before you can actually right, before you can actually, he does forward, hits with the knife, and then you can kind of do the LMH follow-ups, right? Right. Oh, I also forgot, right? If you do unique, kind of steps back, does these little spread gunshots. This is really good, right? If you do a lot of this, right? People are gonna get used to that, and they might tech it. Boom, right? They're gonna like try to like tech that, and then now you look at your +8 in this scenario. You know what's also good in this scenario? 2M, right? Boom. Continued pressure, right? Look at also where it leaves you. Right, it leaves you in the scenario where you want to be, even on block, right? Crouching. Right, you're still +3 in this scenario when this happens, right? You're exactly where you want to be, right? This is where, you know, sometimes you have to think, hey, maybe you know, game designers didn't fuck over my character, right? You know, I know we all have to mess around, but I mean, they knew what they were doing with this, right? You know, you're exactly where you want to be, right? In a scenario like that, right? So it's really good, pretty solid. And the same thing holds through when you do the M version, right? So if you want to catch it. The big little thing about this is just like 5U, this is not a real combo. It's not a real string, right? After initial hit, right? So if I do, so just like 5U, see how they get hit? Oh, actually, they must have changed it. Maybe I'm stupid. You should be able to sidestep it. Maybe I'm just stupid. Never mind, it was changed. I'm just dumb. It is a true box string, but it isn't from something like far M, right? Right. You're still plus in this scenario, right? But if you're like only like if you're not anticipating it, right? You know, it can sometimes not come out. So something to think about. 2 and 4M is really good. It's kind of what you want to be using most of the time. Outside of the heavy version. I mean, the heavy version is just the same as the medium version. It's just a little bit faster, right? Swipe. The big thing about the H version is that so you can actually cancel it without doing the swipe. You can also do like immediate M, right, like that. Versus with the M version, you cannot. Or you can. It's just like really fast, right? It's just not really that consistent, right? So if you like to delay it like this, like if you want to delay something, you want to just do the L version. The big thing that you kind of like want to like get used to doing in scenarios, like learning how to is how to stop it, right? You know, learning what to do in a certain scenario, right? Right, I can do that, right? And, you know, it's okay, end it, right? But I can do this, right? But what if my opponent likes to jump, right? Then I can do this, right? But there's sometimes where what if they're just really patient, they just want to block, right? Boom, right? You know, back that in there. What if they're really good at teching? Right, do one of those. You know, mixing your pressure. Kind of what you wanna mix them up, right? Do M and L, and save H mainly for combos. And then into last special, right? We're going to get to one more thing with this character, which is objectively the most important tool if you were to actually pick one, and that is Grenade. He plays around his grenades so much. Obviously, I've used some in some of my like other special demonstrations and things like that, just because it's just how prevalent they are. Like, you know, he needs his grenades to function for the most part. So he has Light Grenade. Kind of like drops it. It can explode sooner if you like kind of hit it. The big thing is that like it can be thrown off screen now. Before it wasn't like that easy to throw it off screen like that. It was a little easier to work with. Kind of just keep that in mind when you're like kind of near the corner. But the big thing that it actually blocks all. If you get a scenario where your opponent likes to sidestep a lot, you get a counter hit starter off of it, right? And you're plus 14. Right, so you get like your follow up. It's really good. You know, it's fun if you. Right, it's really good at punishing people who like to sidestep a lot. It also likes to, you know, it's also really good at punishing people who roll a lot, right? Right. So let's just say I do like one of them. Come on. Right. So it's really good in that scenario. Right. Now. It can be rolled if you do one of those, so just kind of be wary of that. But like from a distance, it's kind of what you want to throw, right? Then we get to medium grenade, right? Medium grenade is a little bit different, so he throws it a lot further and a little bit faster. But it's 2 hits, right? The first hit is like the grenade itself, but then the second hit doesn't happen until, you know, about a second or two after. This is like this is one of your lockdown tools, right? This is where, you know, where I said you want to do like one of these, you know, in the corner. Right? Kind of pester them because like they kind of have to respect it. Now they can press between the hits. They can jump between the hits. That's kind of where you want to be more like reactive to like what their playstyle is, what they tend to do, and punish that, right? If they jump in, if they're trying to jump out of like the second hit, you know, be at this distance, right? Because you'll be in their jump arc range, blow them up with the anti-air, right? If they try to press a button, you know, be at this distance so you can whiff punish the button, right? You know, fake run in, backdash, right? You know, whiff punish, right? Do you know, you want to like implement these things kind of into your general game plan, and that's how these grenades will pretty much help you out. And then we get to the big boy. This is Heavy Grenade. It does not explode at all on its own. However, it will stick to your opponent whether they block or not, right? So this is such a huge part of his tool. This is where Eustace damage comes from. This is his key gameplay mechanic, right? Is Grenade. When you have Grenade up, anything that is gunshot related, like Far L, Far H, it causes the grenade to explode, right? So Far L, running or Far, you know, running H, Far H, right? Things like that. 2HH, right? Stun light, like with special. The gunshots, explosion. Throw, any throw, including air throws. Right, so this is such a key, you know, 5U is another one. And look at it. Remember how my 5UU is -6? Now I'm +8, right? Remember how this is -3 on block? Now I'm +13. You know, now I'm +18, right? Like this is so big for him, right? Like this is where his pressure comes from. If he wants a million plus frames, he can. It's where his damage comes from, right? Because like if you're in the corner and I get you know a 2L starter, right? What are my options here? Well, in versus, it was this. Unless I spent bar. If I spent meter, then sure, right? I get 2360 from here. $45.40. I have nearly doubled my damage, and I didn't even do like an optimal combo, right? If I do like an optimal for. Like this is such a big key part of his game plan, right? Mid screen, right? Like you know, if I have my back to the corner, for example, what's my options here? MM, right? And I can keep the ball rolling, right? Sure. You know, spend a Brave point and 25 bar. And yeah, I can carry the corner, right? But you know, I spent 25 bar. I'm now net 19, you know, negative 19 bar and a Brave point. Right? I just carried him pretty much to the corner using an easy combo, and I still have super. And I spent some EX, but I would have spent that anyways if I spent, you know, Raging Strike, Raging Strike into Raging Chain, and I keep all my Brave points. Right? This is so big, right? Like this is, you know. Big. It's so big. This is something that is huge to his game plan. This is what makes his strike throw scary, right? I did 8,460 damage off of a not even technically optimized super combo, off of throw. Let's say they try teching. All right, let's say they try teching, right, in this scenario. I'm gonna do a simple combo. One. I am doing easily half your health, easily, without really much effort. I mean, you'll get crazy damage like this even with just regular super, right? In most scenarios, you'll have the super. This is what makes his strike throw so scary, right? In versus, obviously, you know. Like, look, you know, his overhead's scary now. His simple overhead's scary now. Like, this is so massive for him, right? This is where he gets his damage. This is where he creates his opportunities. Is this grenade? Yeah, and versus like universal overhead made it even that much scarier. But the reason why, you know, this overhead is not that bad, right? And why he likes to force crouch, because on crouch, auto combo gets you your grenade. What was I getting when I wasn't having grenade up? Like, $34.40, right, for that one. Yeah, I can't really get that right. If I spend all my EX, it's 4,500, right? But if I force them to crouch, and look at that, I got my grenade back. That's how long the combo lasts. That's the kind of route that I get. The combo lasted so long. Well, it's the starter that I get because I was able to juggle. Remember what I said earlier about juggling? That I was able to get my EX grenade back right at the end of the combo, and I still got to keep slow kill. So now, even when the combo was over, even if I didn't get my grenade back, I'm back to corner, into pressure, into other stuff. Huge part of his game plan, right? I cannot stress enough how important that is. Do not waste it. If you're going to use it for plus frames, that's fine. Use it for plus frames, right? But at the end of the day, you're going to have to learn how to position it in your offense. You need to use it in, learn how to punish, right? Even without counter hit, right? It works on crouching. Right? It works off of non-counter hit 5H. Right? So, get used to that. Right, get used to that. On crouching counter hit, it does work from this. It also technically does work from that as well. It's just hard to get like a follow-up, right? Because you're plus 14, so you have to like be a little bit closer, right? So you can get a little bit of that. So if you're a space like this, you can get something. It's just not that reliable. But again, like I said before, weird situations, right? Recognize the situations, get used to, probably what, getting what you normally, most of the cats can't get, even what you can get half the time, right? That's what this grenade is so valuable for. It's the reason why they nerfed it, right? They nerfed it in this game. In Versus, you used to be able to get 2 explosions. Now, it didn't really nerf the overall damage. It mostly just nerfs like his corner carry. Because since he could get 2 explosions off of it, he can kind of just do stun light twice, or you can do this twice in a combo, get 2 explosions off of it, and get extra corner carry. And I mean, literally, you get from your back to the corner you get full corner in off of just one combo without burning any EX outside of the grenade. It's really good. It's very scary. It's plus on block, right? So you kind of get your stuff after. Right, so even if they're like holding block and they do this and they're trying to like mash out of it, it's a frame trap, right? Come on. Right, +6, right? So you can get it. not. Probably just a little bit easier. Right, you can kind of just do your whole route. It's really big, but you know, one thing that you kind of want to be careful for. When I see a lot of users do, they'll just keep doing this just because they know that it's a thing. It is, you can spot dodge it, right? So this is like one thing that you kind of want to like be careful for, right? And then you're even, right? So this is where you want to use your light grenade, right? Mix it up with your light grenade. Like, oh well, you spot dodge this, okay? Well, I'm gonna hit you with my light grenade. But remember, my light grenade, I'm super plus off of that, right? Right? So you can do like, do one of those. Right? Get your stuff, right? Things that you want to, like, you know, just keep an eye out for these things. You know, they kind of help each other out. It does, in certain scenarios, it can beat, not backstep, I'm stupid. It can beat that. Now, if you're doing it from like, a scenario, from like, you can actually time it to where, yeah, something like that, where you kind of get it off of roll. Again, really dangerous, so just kind of be careful with that. Roll is not your friend when it comes to Eustace, at least from the enemy's perspective. So kind of just want to like be careful with that, right? Now let's get to his ultimate skills, right? One thing I want to talk about is the ultimate skills. They're not that bad. They all have their niches. Some of them are better than others. I have definitely changed my mind on some of them. So first and foremost, let's get it out the way. Eustace has a DP now. It's so big. It's so awesome. You know, having something like a DP that could just get him out of situations for free is such a good tool. Yeah, so it's just 2 and 4. You don't use it in combos. Do not use it for anything else other than just a DP. That's the only thing you need to be using it for. Not saying that some people have been trying to use it for like combos, which again, if you can't, you can if you really want to. But again, I'm not gonna like recommend it. It's not that big of a deal. There's other things you can do. You know, when you know at the end of the day. There is. Hold on, let's do this really quick. You know, EF Max Thunder. This is actually pretty good. This gives you a nice wall bounce, right? This is pretty good in scenarios. Like, so obviously, you know, when you're getting this, right, like, oh, okay, I'm +8 in the scenario, so you kind of get like a, right, you know, if you get one of those, so you kind of get like a really cool combo. I want to get the whole thing, because right, so it does pretty good damage. You know, it helps you get like these crazy scenario, like 2 hits. I just took 90% of your health, so obviously, you know, you have to land both of them, but it's still really good. Slow kill, not that bad. He kind of shoots up, then he shoots down. This is really good at catching opponents like full screen if they're trying to like move in. He kind of hits everywhere. Like, it doesn't matter where you're standing. It just hits everywhere. Right, so really cool. Like if you're just trying to cover the screen, it's not that bad. Just kind of just throw out there. And then ultimate grenade. This is big. It doesn't have a hitbox unlike the other 3 until it explodes, and it will explode on its own. It kind of just stays there. It also never goes off screen, right? So you kind of hugs the wall, so unlike his other 3 grenades. So it's really good. This is where a lot of his mix-up comes in, right? So you can kind of just do this into like explosion, into like combo, right? If you look at his like the damage off a throw, you get 2,500 off a throw. If you throw while this is out, you get the full damage, right? So it's pretty nice. That's like what, 3065, right? So again, not that bad, right? Obviously it's a little scaled, but you can't get a combo off of it like the heavy version. But if if you're in like that like kill scenario, sure, it does a pretty hefty chunk. You can also do like overhead, right? Right, same thing with the medium version. Right, so that's like where your mix comes in. Again, it's very like high risk, high reward, because you are burning the 50 bar for it. But if you can hit it, it's like really good. You can detonate it prematurely. So like even so if like say we're not counter hitting. That's not bad, right? So if you want to like fake run up throw into this to bait them into teching, and then you can do one of those, or you can probably do like a if they get like really scared, do kind of one of those things. Again, something to mess around with. He does have like certain like little like nuances behind it, because he recovers really fast, right? So if his counter hit, he's still plus 14 after he throws it out, right? Right, so you can actually get. Come on. Right, so you can kind of like do like some fancy stuff, like. And you have like a safe jump in that scenario, which is pretty nice. You can also like use it as a punish. So you can use it like as a punish in particular for like Gran and like Jita. If you're trying to like, even if you're like mid screen, blocks all, default. It's not that bad. Gran and Jita are pretty common. Right. Right, I just took 40% of her health for punishing her DP. Now, granted, you can kind of already get that. Come on. I was already getting big damage, right, in that scenario, so it's not that big of a deal. And again, it's really on like counter hit combos, but like, if you're like in certain scenarios where like you can kind of just like make it part of your mix up, right? So if I do like, right, I'm plus 22 in that scenario, so I can always do like, so if I know like if I'm plus 22 and my total active frames is 13, right? So that leaves me with 9, right? I hit him like with like an actual like auto timed heavy on their wake up in that scenario. So you do stuff like that. You can do stuff like right. So now you're safe. The big thing about like grenade is that like these ultimate grenades that you can actually use them, or ultimate skills in general, you can use them when you're already on cooldown. So even after my grenade combo, you know, I still get my stuff after, so it's pretty solid. I thought, I mean, in the initial beta, I thought it was going to be worse than what it was, than what it is. I have been finding a lot of success with it. You have to just really be good at your mix. You have to know what your opponent, you know, is thinking. But as a whole, it's pretty solid. But yeah, that's it for like most of his kit. Now when you're like pretty much like we have to think about like how we're going to use all these together, right? And I kind of showed off like, you know, when I'm pressuring you in the corner, you know, you want to mix them up like that. Right. I did all that and I kind of improv it. I just wasn't thinking about it, just because it's just what I naturally do, right? Like I'm not thinking about like what I need to do in a certain sequence, because there is no correct sequence, right? When I'm doing something like this, I know that eventually someone's gonna press. Someone's gonna get impatient. It's just about me like instinctually knowing, okay, when are you gonna get impatient? You know, when are you gonna get when are you gonna get impatient? Like, you know, and calling that out, right? When I'm doing stuff like this, like I'm kind of just doing that from instinct, right? Right? Doing things off of instinct is going to save you a lot in this game, right? That's why I tell people, get comfortable with the character first. Don't worry about these fancy combos, right? Because I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm just pressuring. I didn't mean to do that, but like, knowing how to get comfortable, you know, pretty much in your own feet, in your own shoes, is such a big thing. Obviously, it was any character, but we used in particular because he needs all these to do good, right? Like, you know, if I mean, you saw, I mean, when I was just doing heavy grenade, spot dodge and roll beat both of those. When I did light grenade, roll beat that, right? When I did, when I did like certain things, you know, mashing kind of beat it, right? Or such and such beat this, right? But when you put them all in tandem together, you know, you kind of get a sequence where like now my opponent is afraid to do anything, right? Because he, you know, yeah, if I roll or if I spot dodge in this situation, it beats this option that you are doing, but you also have 4 or 5 other ways to beat his defensive option, right? That is such a big part of Eustace's kit, and this is the reason why I say, like, if you're missing on one thing, sometimes that could be the difference between life or death in this game, right? If I'm in the scenario and I'm about to get chipped out, but they're also about to get chipped out, but I don't have slow kill up because I burned it off of EX, now I have a much harder time locking my opponent down. They have a much easier time kind of just pressing buttons with me, you know, rolling it on me, doing whatever they want to me, right? Just because they can. And that kind of just what makes it really, really scary. So a lot of what you want to understand about what Eustace is, in regards to his pressure, is knowing just how to mix everything up, learning your timings, right? I'm not even going to pay attention to when my grenade comes back. I'm not even looking at that side of the screen. I wish I had an eye tracker, right? And it's back up again, right? So I knew, like, just because off of instinct, right? I'm not even looking at it. Like, I mean, you could probably just take my word for it. Now it's back up, right? See, so it's so feel based, right? You have to really feel the character, and that sounds weird to say, but you have to like really understand a lot of his timings. It feels a lot like, I'm trying to make it like a quick comparison. Like it really does feel a lot like I want to say Marvel. I think Marvel is probably like the best thing, like where you know exactly how much bar your combos do, how much bar your combo builds, and how much bar you need to spend in a given combo, and you can almost, like, once you master your character, you can spend it pretty much on the penny, right? Like, you know, same thing with, like, I mean, to a lesser extent, like Street Fighter, or like Guilty Gear. I know they're really good at like managing meter, but it's a lot like those, right? Whereas the rest of the cast doesn't really have to worry about that too much because they have other options at any other time. Eustace doesn't, so you have to pretty much be aware of that timer, right? But because you want to be worried about your spacing, right? You pretty much don't want to be looking at your cooldowns up at the top of the screen, right? Right there up top, right? You want to look at the top of the screen, right? So you want to kind of just like, I mean, yeah, it's not that bad of a idea to just like glance at them, right? You want to be able to look at them. Don't feel uncomfortable just kind of like looking up at them from time to time, or like looking at them from the corner of your eye. But eventually, like, you won't ever need to do that, right? You're gonna get so accustomed to your EX timings, right, that like you don't even have to worry about it, right? I'm just gonna guess in this scenario. I'm not even gonna look at my timer. Do one, and now it's back, right? So, yeah, it's back. So again, there's no way for me to. I don't have an eye tracker, but I wish I did. But I didn't have to look at it. I just looked at what I was doing, and I just instinctually knew, just because those timings are so engraved into me. And that's kind of what, as a beginner, you need to kind of have engraved into you, and as an intermediate player, that's what should be happening to you right about now, right? Is you shouldn't have to be thinking about managing your resources, right? Even though he's a resource management character, not in the same way that other characters are, like Nier in this game, or a character like Happy Chaos, or in Guilty Gear, or like Ibuki with her kunais, or something like that. Like, we don't have to like manage what you have. He's more understanding what can he do in every single scenario. You have to be aware. Awareness is so key. This is why you should be learning awareness, neutral, fundamentals, especially with this character. Otherwise, everything you're gonna learn, like if you learn fancy combos, situational matchups, things like that, if you're focused on those, but you don't understand your cooldowns, and all of that is just gonna go out the window, right? So this is something that you want to just kind of keep engraved in your head. Like, just do what I'm doing, right? Do what I'm doing. Kind of just like spend your EX. Don't look at your cooldowns, right? This is how I recommend practicing. Get into it, right? Do your fancy combos, right? Well, I didn't have the HP to reset, but do it. Get used to like what you can do, right? Do this. Do one of these. Like, learn how to like run up neutral, right? You don't want to do this, right? You don't want to do that, because that that'll just mess you up. You don't want to do this, right? If you want to hold forward, right? You don't want to like be hasty. So just learn to let your stick go neutral, right? If you play on stick, right? If you play on hitbox or pad, it's probably a lot easier for you. But like if you're playing on stick like me, learn how to let your stick go neutral. Like, it's such a big thing, right? Because a lot of people say like, oh well, easy inputs over scrubs. Well, even in versus, he likes to do this, run up anti-air. He can't do that if he's not doing the easy input. So it's a very nice situation for him, right? Now he can, right? So run up, boom. It's pretty nice. So kind of just just understand your timings, practice your pressure, and learn how things kind of interact with each other, right? Learn. See how you get like the meaty, like that's the scenario you want to be in, right? Like understanding like just where you are on screen every time you get a knockdown, right? I would throw right there, but like these are things you want to practice. Practice like kind of moving around. Like the best way to describe it, weirdly enough, is a lot like Melee. If you ever watch people who practice playing like Fox or Falco or all these other guys on Melee, they'll go onto like their stage and they'll just like practice their movement, and they do a bunch of like crazy, buck wild fuck shit movement for like 10, 15, 20 minutes at a time just to warm up their hands, right? And that's kind of what Eustace wants to do, is because he's so like ingrained like how he moves, right? You want to learn how to get that perfect stop, right, at 26 frames, right? You want to learn how to get that. Ow, it's not that hard. You just can just tap, 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 right? You know. Oh, I burned it. I'm stupid. Right, because if you do it a little bit longer, boom, you just burn 4 extra frames that you probably didn't need to, right? And those 4 extra frames can mean the difference between you actually getting something and your opponent, you know, mashing, right? So, just understanding the character is so big, right? So I recommend if you're gonna learn how to play this character, get into the lab, do what I'm doing, right? Practice your movement, practice, you know your spacing. You know, where can I, how far away can I be to get this, right? I just barely tapped your toes, right? I don't have to be like all up front, right? Learn how to just tap your toes, right? You want to be outside of this range. Why? Because if you double tap, you know you're in that range, right? So things like that, right? Go to practice. But yeah, I know I've kind of been rambling on for a while. This has been a very messy video. I might have it edited. We'll see. If not, I might just throw and dump all my stupid ass knowledge to you guys about the fundamentals of learning what this character does. I know it's more of like a beginner guide in terms of the breakdown, but if you're already a beginner, or if you're kind of like leaning towards the intermediate side, understanding why some of his things are good and how you want to position and why you want to position in certain ways, it's really good to know from someone who has played this character for so long. And I really want to help people, right? You know, it's been my dream for me to help people learn this character, right? And whenever somebody tells me that they're a Eustace player, I get excited, right? This is from Versus. I moved to Colorado, and there's a Eustace player here, and I lost my shit, right? It was awesome, right? The fact that there's 2 Eustace players, and it was like, people even at the local were saying like, wow, like Eustace is such an uncommon player, uncommon character. Now we have 2 players here who play him, like, that's great, like, and now that he's starting to pick up traction, and I see people that are getting excited to play him, I'm always more than happy to help out. I'm always more than happy to answer any sort of questions, offer advice, offer matchup knowledge and things like that. So kind of just take what I'm throwing at you. Again, it's a big dump of just a bunch of shit, but kind of just like let it sink in, mess around with it, get really comfortable with this character in your hands, and then pretty much when you're ready, I'm going to be dropping probably a beginner to intermediate to advanced combo like trial video. I guess you can do combo trial, combo along video compilation for you guys. I won't be doing that right now. Probably give me like a couple weeks. Just get everything kind of situated together for you guys. But like I said, when you're learning this character, combo should be the least of your worries. When you're learning any character in any fighting game, combo should be the least of your worries, right? You should always focus on your fundamentals if you want to get better. So yeah, I will be posting this to YouTube sometime soon. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Discord, either in the Granblue server or in my DMs. If you're in the Granblue server, you can always feel free to DM me. And then yeah, I'll be getting ready for that combo video soon. See ya.